Firstpost reports from the world's second largest continent. Hello, I'm Alison Lagrange. A very warm welcome from Durban, South Africa. We get you the news and the newsmakers from Africa. From elections to climate change to innovations and opportunities. As the world's attention shifts, we report from Africa, the heart of the global south. Join me every weekday live on Firstpost. Hello and welcome to Firstpost Africa, where we get you the top stories from the continent and from across the world. I'm Alison Lagrange, coming to you live from Durban, South Africa. First, let's take a look at the headlines. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken heads to Israel as Washington pushes to kickstart ceasefire talks to end the Gaza war after the death of Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar. Germany inaugurates a new NATO command center to boost defense readiness in the Baltic Sea region as Russia continues to pursue its invasion of Ukraine. South Korea summons Russian ambassador to Seoul to protest the reported deployment of thousands of North Korean troops to help Moscow's war against Ukraine. King Charles heckled and accused of genocide by Indigenous Australian senator moments after the British monarch delivered his speech at Australia's Parliament House.
Give us what you stole from us! Our bones, our skulls, our babies, our people! You destroyed our land! Give us a treaty! We want a treaty in this country! You are a genocidalist! It's not your land! It's not your land!
And clashes erupt in Mozambique's capital Maputo as police fire tear gas at protesters amid growing anger over the killing of two opposition leaders after a disputed election. Hello and welcome. Let's take a look at our top story. Our top focus remains on the big political showdown in Kenya. Now, in a historic impeachment last week, Kenyan Parliament sacked President William Ruto's deputy, Rigathi Gachagua. Now, he is the same deputy who once helped Ruto to win the 2022 presidential polls by gathering huge support for him. But today, he is not only blaming Ruto for his unfair ouster, but also for threatening his life. After his dismissal as the deputy president, Gachagua has lashed out at his former boss with some major accusations. He has accused Kenyan President William Ruto of plotting assassination attempts on him, not once, but twice. He said that these attempts were made through food poisoning, and he detected before he could consume the food. And according to Gachagua, the first incident took place in western Kenya city of Kisumu on the 30th of August, and the second in central Kenya town of Nyeri on the 3rd of September. Gachagua alleges the state operatives, including the National Intelligence Service, were involved in the plan. He said he asked for a security change after the incidents, but now the ousted deputy says his life is in danger as his security has been withdrawn altogether. He says his entire staff has been sent on compulsory leave and William Ruto would be responsible if anything happened to him. He told the reporters, and I quote, "I am shocked by how vicious a man I helped to be president, believed in and was persecuted when I supported, could be so vicious against me," unquote. Gachagua was speaking after being discharged from hospital where he was being treated for severe chest pains. He fell abruptly ill on the day that he was supposed to defend himself in the Kenyan Senate while his impeachment trial was taking place. However, due to the last-minute illness, he did not show up, and the lawmakers moved to impeach him despite his absence. He was impeached on 5 out of 11 charges that were leveled against him. These include undermining the government and practicing ethnically divisive politics. Throughout the proceedings, William Ruto did not comment even once on the impeachment, but the president did not waste much time and quickly chose his new deputy. He swiftly nominated Interior Minister Kithure Kindiki to replace Gachagua. But the Kenyan courts are not letting the Kenyan president have it easy. A high court in Nairobi suspended the appointment process within minutes of the nomination. A 3-judge bench is due to hear the case on Tuesday. While Kenya witnesses new twists to this political drama, many in the East African countries see this as a government tactic to distract the public from other pressing issues. They see the impeachment process as unfair and disappointing.
I am not happy with Gachagua's impeachment. It's a painful one because Gachagua, as our leader, fought for our rights. He defended the common people. He didn't want us to suffer because we have suffered enough. So we as women would like him in his position because he is a defender of the weak. When he leaves, no one else will fight for us.
Many human rights activists have also expressed dismay over the Interior Minister Kindiki's nomination. They link him to the deaths of over 60 people during demonstrations against tax hikes and the cost of living crisis in July and August.
The appointment of Kindiki Kindude to be our new deputy president is a sad moment for our country. Today, a lot of us are wearing black because we are mourning, because at the time during the protest he was CS Interior. We have over 61 people who lost their lives and we still have no accountability. We don't know the rogue police who shot them. There's no case, there's no compensation in terms of victims' families.
In the aftermath of Kenya's anti-government protests, Ruto appointed some of the opposition members in his cabinet to appease the protesters. These members belong to the same camp Gachagua ditched to side with Ruto ahead of the 2022 polls. But after Ruto joined hands with them, Gachagua has complained of being sidelined politically. He now says the president just needed him to gather votes from the vote-rich region of Mount Kenya, where he hails from. And Ruto's new deputy pick is also from the vote-rich Mount Kenya region. But the process to appoint a new deputy president is going to meet some legal challenges, and the coming days will decide the outcomes of this political face-off in Kenya. For more on this, we have with us Stella Agara, a governance analyst who is joining us live from Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Stella, the deputy president claims that his life is under threat. How seriously should these allegations be taken, and what mechanisms exist in Kenya's political or legal system to investigate and deal with such claims?
I think, first of all, we need to take note that Kenya is one of those countries that has a very high politically charged environment, and for this particular government, I don't think there has been reprieve. Generally, the situation has been high-level politics ever since they were elected. And so when a deputy president makes such a claim, however much it may be assumed that their political gimmicks, it must be taken seriously. It is the responsibility of the state to protect the president, his deputy, and other state officers. And so for that reason, number one, the claim should be taken seriously. The second reason has got to do with the fact that it's apparent that he has fallen out with his boss, His Excellency the President. And it is also apparent that there is a direct and very serious attempt at ensuring that he is not going to be in office in the coming days. And so there are people who may be getting impatient by the fact that he's fighting. Majority of them would have hoped that they would have outwitted him and sent him home without a fight. And so obviously, if when he He finds himself in a situation where he's fighting in court. He has attempted ways of defending himself. By the time the process has proceeded to the Senate, some of the claims in the petition had actually been dropped. There are people who may be assuming that he will eventually not be impeached. And of course, they have reasons to eliminate him. Because of those reasons, I think it's extremely important to take the claim seriously and, of course, to provide him security. He did claim that his security has been pulled off. The vehicles that were being used by his team have been impounded. And so he's basically a deputy president, at least because the court stayed the procedure for his impeachment. So basically, he's a deputy president who's moving around without security. The reason why he had that security in the first place is because as a deputy president, he would be targeted by other people who would be political detractors. And now, would-be political detractors from outside of government and those in government could very easily take advantage of the fact that he doesn't have security. And I think it's quite a breach. Even if there's a designate awaiting that position, it's extremely important to keep his security. Are there mechanisms to address this issue? Definitely, yes. There are mechanisms to investigate the claims he has made of the possibility of poisoning by the National Intelligence Service agents. We have the Police Reform Authority that also has a responsibility to look at some of the crimes committed by security officials. And of course, that claim can also be taken up by any police station in Kenya currently. And the Inspector General of the Police is supposed to answer as to why the life of the state officer is in trouble.
And Stella, now with the Deputy President accusing President Ruto of being vicious, how could this public fallout affect Ruto's image domestically and also within his party?
You know, one of the surprising things is that as it is right now, Ruto has nothing to lose. In terms of image, I think he pretty much lost whatever was left of his image during the protests and, of course, with the actions that he has taken after the election. So in terms of the citizens and how they view him, nothing has changed. If anything, it has just gotten worse, especially amongst the people who are loyal to the deputy president, because for them, they feel betrayed, they feel cheated because they had hoped that they were going to be stakeholders in this government and that they were going to be able to enjoy certain favors just by virtue of the fact that they had one of their own as a deputy president. In his political party, however, one of the things that is going to happen is that there will be much less trust towards him, because if he can do this to a deputy president, to a person who sacrificed a lot to support him in the elections, then anybody else is dispensable. So I know very many of his lieutenants are very vigilant. Even as they collaborate with him, as they work with him, they know that he could very easily turn against them. The other thing is that they are all definitely on high alert, because they're not sure who's going to be the next culprit or who's going to be the next victim of the president's vengeance or actions or retaliation based on who he views as his enemies or what he's trying to plan for the next election in 2027. In terms of anybody planning to collaborate with him for coalitions for the next election, I think he has made his life extremely complicated, because then everybody who has seen the action he has taken knows that if they get into government with him, they may be mistreated in the very same way. His Excellency the President, also rebelled against his boss in the last term, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta. But then the President Uhuru did not treat him the way he has treated his deputy now. And of course, politicians are watching, politicians are learning, and they're going to really shun the possibility of being in a coalition with him. Does he have an easy job creating a coalition that is going to deliver the votes for him? No, he has a very difficult job ahead. It will take a lot of political genius for him to consolidate the vote. I don't put it past the president to be able to think of a strategy that would work, because he has always been a political genius. It's just that the assignment is going to be quite huge, and I'm yet to see what strategy he will deploy.
Yes, and just quickly, what are the potential consequences of this dispute on Kenya's political stability, future elections, and could this signal deeper divisions within Ruto's administration?
I think, let me first of all give you an absolute answer in terms of deeper divisions in the Ruto administration. This is about to get worse. This is about to get worse, especially because, and you have shown the press conference that the deputy president did when he walked out of hospital. You can tell that he is willing to expose more about the Ruto administration. And the more he exposes, the more cracks that there are going to be in the Ruto administration, the more Kenyans are going to actually have factual truth about some of the weaknesses and the fault lines in Ruto's administration. And so in terms of that, then there's going to be quite some weakness. In terms of future elections, this move to impeach the deputy president, the move to betray his partner, the move to separate with his deputy president has definitely complicated the process for him and really muddied the waters, because everybody has gone back to the drawing board. There are certain people who did not think that they have an opportunity, but now they're definitely going to position themselves, because as of now, the president's camp has been weakened slightly because he has lost quite a huge basket of votes. The other thing that has happened towards the coming elections is that Kenyans have already started asking themselves a lot of questions about exactly what do we want as leaders. For the first time this past weekend, the church actually stood up to speak against the president and his conduct. And they said that they prayed him into power and they're going to pray him out of power. So he's beginning to get resistance from quarters where nobody was challenging him. And I think it's going to be extremely difficult for him. In terms of stability, I think as a nation, we cannot continue to have those tribal conversations. We cannot continue to have elections that are organized around tribe. And I think this move that they have made is really driving a wedge amongst the people, and it would be extremely important for us to engage in a lot of healing to avoid situations where this kind of polarity will cause violence after the elections.
Stella.
And of course, it looks really bad even out there. Even for investors, it's really damaging for the country.
Stella, thank you very much. Unfortunately, we have to leave it there. Thank you for being with us on First Post Africa.
Thank you for having me.
Let's now move on to Egypt, where mounting economic pressures could possibly force the North African country to review a multi-billion-dollar deal with the International Monetary Fund. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi warned that Cairo may have to re-evaluate its $8 billion program with the IMF if international institutions fail to take into account the extraordinary regional challenges that the country was facing. Speaking at the Global Congress on Population Health and Human Development in Cairo, President al-Sisi said that if these challenges will make us put unbearable pressure on the public, then the situation must be reviewed with the IMF. The Egyptian leader's comments reflect the difficult balance the government has to strike in complying with pledges for fiscal discipline while avoiding upsetting a population grappling with price increases that have far outstripped most growth in salaries. But what is the economic program that Egypt agreed to with the IMF, and how has it impacted the people? Let's understand. Egypt had signed an $8 billion financial support package with the IMF in March of this year. The package was an extension of a 2022 $3 billion program that the government had signed after its economic woes worsened owing to the years of government austerity, the coronavirus pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine war. For $8 billion assistance, the IMF demanded that there should be a better balance between the public and private sector. The IMF wanted the Egyptian government to enhance competition and to allow a greater role for private sector in driving economic growth. The program remains centered around three key goals to ensure macroeconomic stability in Egypt. Now, the first goal is to shift towards a flexible exchange rate system. Now, in such a sort of system, exchange rate is determined by the market forces of demand and supply. With this, the IMF was aiming to make Egypt's economy more adjustable to external shocks. The second goal entailed the government to tighten its monetary and fiscal policy. The aim behind this was to reduce the inflation and to maintain Egypt's debt sustainability. The third goal of the program was to undertake targeted budget support to vulnerable households, and this was aimed at protecting households with less income from high inflation that can hit purchasing power. But implementing such structural reforms was coming at a rough time for Egypt. Economic struggles had already worsened. And now, what exactly was this crisis, and how does Egypt's economy function? Let's take a look. Now, the Egyptian economy has been entirely reliant on imports. Its foreign debt has ballooned in recent months. Egypt's currency has undergone several devaluations, leading to a rise in inflation, and an entrenched military dominance has meant that there is a lack of investments and competition. Moreover, an ongoing war in West Asia has meant prices climb further. But why is that so? Now, Egypt controls the Suez Canal, which connects the Red Sea to the Mediterranean Sea and is an important shipping route between Asia and Europe. The Houthis have been attacking the shipping traffic moving through that route since the beginning of the Gaza war in solidarity with the Palestinians. Now, the recurring attacks in the Red Sea forced companies to reroute their ships through other regions. This diversion has caused the revenue to fall, and this to $870 million in the second quarter of 2024 from $2.54 billion a year earlier. In addition, the war has also hurt Egypt's tourism industry. President El-Sisi on Sunday has exclaimed that the country had lost $6 to $7 billion in revenue in the last 7 to 10 months, and this could further continue for another year. And this means the local population, which has been suffering for the past 2 years, might continue to face economic pressures. Prices for many staple food items have risen faster than usual. For instance, the government raised the prices of subsidized bread by 300% in June. The prices of fuel have also increased. On Friday, the government raised prices on a wide range of fuel products for the third time this year. Diesel and gasoline prices have increased by 11% to 17%. Moreover, reports suggest as many as 60% of Egypt's 106 million citizens are estimated to be below or close to the poverty line. While Egypt has tried to draw in support from the EU, the World Bank, its allies in the Gulf, as well as BRICS nations, the crisis continues to persist. Although officials from the government are expected to attend IMF and World Bank's annual meetings in Washington this week, there is no clear picture of how long this economic crisis would take to resolve. And shifting focus to Somalia, which is fighting Islamist insurgency linked to terror group Al-Qaeda. In the latest, the Somali military has gained some edge as it has hunted down several Al-Qaeda-linked terrorists as part of targeted operation. The Somali army has killed at least 30 Al-Shabaab terrorists and injured 40 others in the Galmudug state. The crackdown was a part of coordinated military operation, which was undertaken by the Somali army and the Galmudug state forces and pro-government local clan militias. The operation was conducted after the army received intelligence regarding Al-Shabaab terrorists' operations in the region. Authorities say among those killed were 2 significant Al-Shabaab leaders, while the government says 3 of its soldiers were injured during the operation. This military action follows 2 days after a suicide bomber detonated an explosive-laden vest outside a crowded cafe near the police academy in the capital, Mogadishu. At least 7 people died in the attack, including police officers and civilians. The attack was claimed by Al-Qaeda affiliate Al-Shabaab, which has waged an insurgency in Somalia for 18 years. The group, which was formed to fight Ethiopian invasion in Somalia, now seeks to overthrow the Somali government and to establish a fundamental Islamic state. It maintains a stronghold in parts of southern Somalia, and thousands have been killed so far in their attacks. In August this year, the group targeted a popular beach in the capital, which resulted in 37 deaths. Several protested in the aftermath, condemning the al-Shabaab terror group.
Somali youth have no right to be massacred every day, especially at public places. We must defend our country. Somali youth make up 70% of the population. You know that we have no other place to flee. We must stay and defend ourselves in our country.
The deadliest al-Shabaab attack in the country's history was the double car bombing in October of 2017, killing 358 people and injuring 228 in Mogadishu. The attacks have spilled over the border to Kenya too. The Somali government has heavily relied on foreign troops to fight al-Shabaab and to stay in power. Over the years, several regional and international partners have assisted the Somali government in spearheading the counterinsurgency efforts and rebuilding its security forces. Currently, the African Union Transition Mission in Somalia, or the ATMIS mission, is operating in the country, which has authorized by the African Union and mandated by the UN Security Council. The mission aims to make Somalia free from al-Shabaab, building the capacity of the Somali security forces and supporting peace and reconciliation in the country. Currently, it comprises of troops from Uganda, Burundi, Djibouti, Kenya, and Ethiopia. The mission became operational in April of 2022, and it is set to expire by the end of this year. Now, Somalia has reportedly requested a follow-up mission as it continues to face a threat by al-Shabaab. Its leader, Hassan Sheikh Mohammedis, has also visited Ugandan capital of Kampala on Saturday, where he discussed strengthening regional security. The Ugandan leader addressed support for Somali security forces and the African Union-led mission in Somalia. Somalia has also been offered troops to fight al-Shabaab by its ally Egypt, and this amid the growing tensions with neighbor Ethiopia. The Ethiopian troops are also present in Somalia to fight terrorism. However, amid a dispute over Addis Ababa's port deal with Somalia's breakaway region Somaliland, Mogadishu has threatened to expel the Ethiopian troops. So while the insurgents continue their attacks, the regional rifts also threaten the peacekeeping missions in Somalia. Can the Horn of Africa nations see peace return to the region? And finally, to our special segment, Resurgent Africa. Amid the coups and the crises, there are many positive stories from Africa that often get overlooked, but not on this show. Our story today is from South Africa. Wildlife filmmaking in South Africa is becoming a powerful tool in the fight against climate change. A new generation of filmmakers is learning not just the technicalities of the craft, but also its ethical and conservation responsibilities. Happening in the Timbavati Game Reserve, it is helping to break down the barrier between communities and the wildlife around them. Here are all the details.
When it comes to tackling climate change, there's a surprising new weapon in the fight: wildlife photography. In South Africa, photographers are capturing more than just breathtaking images. They are fostering a movement and bringing the world's attention to the urgent need for conservation. Leading this charge are two seasoned wildlife filmmakers, Lauren Arthur and David Easter. They are training wildlife filmmaking students in the Timbavati Game Reserve in South Africa. They have founded a filmmaking course through which the students understand the nuances of the art. For a month, 8 students immerse into the wild with their gear. They get to learn from professionals like naturalists, trackers, cinematographers and editors.
The Two Wild film course really is a first of its kind. While our main focus is to train you to use cameras in these wild spaces, we've gone for a very holistic learning approach to teach you several aspects of the industry. You'll meet trackers, you'll work with naturalists, be mentored by editors, taught by colorists, to give you a real overview of what it takes to be a part of the industry.
Now, this is not your run-of-the-mill filmmaking class. Lauren and David aren't just teaching aspiring filmmakers how to point a camera, film direction and editing, but also about ethics and conservation, along with responsibly interacting with the environment so that their work can ultimately support conservation efforts. Local South African communities who live in the periphery of the Timbavati Game Reserve have not set foot inside the reserve even once. They have never even seen an elephant.
Many people living in the communities on the periphery of the game reserve have never set foot inside. They've never came through the fence or even seen an elephant. We would like to see that change and at least help to bring down that metaphorical fence.
Hence, one of the course's core values is community empowerment. The course is open for anyone and everyone. The filmmaker duo are passionate about fostering local talent by offering scholarships to the filmmakers from nearby communities. This is a way to break down the barriers that separate the local people from the wildlife right in their backyard.
As co-founder of Too Wild, we believe that together we really can inspire change and help to uplift the youth. We want to nurture local talent and help to build the next generation of wildlife filmmakers. And that's why we fully sponsor one candidate per course from the local communities that are based on the periphery of the game reserve. We bring that candidate here and we train them for 4 weeks to help them start their journey to become a wildlife filmmaker.
The filmmakers believe that wildlife storytelling has the power to change hearts, minds, and most importantly, policies. A beautifully shot documentary doesn't just sit in the archives, it sparks action. Viewers get motivated to support the preservation efforts, lobby for sustainable policies, and most importantly, rethink their relationship with the planet. The students who are a part of the program also don't think otherwise.
I decided to do this course because I think our world needs saving and I want to be a part of creating more awareness for that, and yeah.
I chose this course mainly because I'm very passionate about wildlife filming and storytelling. I love getting the message across people and just playing around with people's emotion through visuals. Yeah, and I figured out why not get the skills from the best, and here I am.
Some of these students are already using their cameras to raise awareness. Their aim? To tackle climate change, to foster a deep connection between humans and nature, and protect the precious wildlife of planet Earth.
And that's it on the show for today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Thank you for watching and goodbye.